Alright, so what we're doing today, Aaron Weaver, your boiler guy with Raypak, and Jack Getkin run the camera today. And you are?
Jim Beach.
Jim Beach. Derek Miller?
Derek.
Derek, sorry. Okay. Yeah, the whole mess, you know. So what we're doing is just a general overview. This is down to Bedford Airport, so these guys know what they got, right? Because they're the maintenance guys, and they need to know what's going on. So when we take a look at this, it's an XPak FT. It's 278,000 BTUs and go. How in the world do I know that? Right? Because if you call for help, what do you always need to know? Model number, serial number.
Yep.
Take this cover off. Right here.
Gotcha.
So you can see there's the model number is an H7278, and then you can see the serial number.
It's also on the vent connection.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, you see that.
You don't even have to take the cover off.
Yep, it's right there too.
Great.
So it's both places. So this is your combustion air coming in. Your exhaust is on the back. There's a test port for the exhaust back here. Okay? It's up top. I can feel it. My finger is kind of hard for you guys to see unless you do it. Oh yeah, there it is. You gotta put the cover on for that. There's the cap. So we just got done doing the combustion test on it. Okay. And then the basics for turn the light on. There it is. Relief valve. Okay, so your relief valve is up here, and then it's piped down, going to the drain. Obviously, if that relief valve goes bad, something's going on because you have no automatic fill on this because there's glycol in this system.
Okay.
So you don't have city water, well water here, my guess, right? You got city or well here?
They actually are on city.
You're on city.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have city water into this. So it's a glycol system, so that's why they got the tank over there.
Okay.
With that tank, they'll bring it back over here and they pressurize and pump in and they fill it through here.
Okay.
Alright? So right now you can see that system pressure is sitting about 12 pounds. You can see about 10 on the other side of that pump. But back on the boiler here, the red light, that is sensing water. Red is good, so it's kind of
Counterintuitive. Yeah. It is, absolutely, yeah.
So if you need to test it, you go ahead and hit the test button for it. You should do that at least once a year.
Okay.
And then there's really up here, the only thing tied to it, that's your probe. So that's the probe tank, blow water caught off. There it is tied in. And then when you take a look here, obviously gas shut off out here. And then the one that you guys would be accessing would typically be that one right here to shut it off. That's the gas valve, that's the modulating gas valve. The way that works is depending upon the blower speed, as it ramps up and down, more gas, less gas. Okay. And we already set those adjustments up with the combustion analyzer. Unless you have a combustion analyzer, don't fiddle.
Nope. Not a chance.
If you do, hey, we'll teach you how. Right? No problem. It's pretty easy if you have the right tools. And then if you want to see the flame when it's up and running, right here. You see this little mirror?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So the sight glass is up, so it's basically a piece of polished stainless steel so you can see the fire in the hole there.
Got you.
Right? And this is direct spark ignition, so when it goes to light, there's a spark, and then it'll go ahead and light. Let's see what else. And then on the controls, so this is the Versa control system. It's 3 components. So you can have what you see here. This is the PIM board, okay? So that's the platform ignition module. So that handles all the safeties. So that handles making sure that it's reading a flame signal coming back. That handles opening and closing the gas valve. That handles turning the blower motor on and off, those kind of things. Okay? And then the Versa board, that does the fun stuff. That does the modulation, that does how it ramps up, how it ramps down, how it responds to inputs from here. Okay? Now the dip switches are already set. Jack, you got all those dip switches set, so there's a set of dip switches here. There's a set of dip switches here. And then there's different connections. Now in this one, it's a single unit. So we're not using a pile of stuff tied into this. So you're not going to have a whole bunch of extra wiring coming in. And then for control-wise, Jack, what are you bringing? 0 to 10 for set point?
Right, we're using a 0 to 10 volt DC signal that tells the boiler what water temperature to make, and that's generated by the Tecmar snow and ice melt control that's out there by the snow and ice melt manifold. Okay. So we'll set that up. We've already set it up, but we'll set it up so that you've got a melting temperature of probably somewhere in a 45 to 50 degree range. That would be slab temperature. And then an idling temperature, you and I talked about that last week when I was here, probably in the mid-30s. So what happens is when the outside air temperature drops below the point that frozen precipitation can occur, it'll turn the system on and it'll maintain the slab at the idling temperature waiting for a precipitation event. When the sensor in the pavement senses that it's wet, then it'll switch to the melting temperature and it'll bring the slab up to the melting temperature, keep it there until everything's melted, the sensor goes dry and everything times out, and then we'll revert back to the idling temperature. And then once it gets above somewhere in low 40s outside air temperature, then that control will say we're not going to get frozen precipitation, so there's no reason to run that system, and we'll turn it off. It's called warm weather cutout. So it'll turn the system off. There's also a cold weather cutout that right now I have set at 5 degrees outside. So anytime it drops below 5 degrees outside, it'll also turn the system off, because at 5 degrees outside, what kind of snow do you get here? Usually it's just anything, if it snows at all, it's just real light and just blows around. You're not going to get much accumulating snow. Whereas if it gets really cold outside, you could be running this thing a lot and not accumulating any snow.
No reason to.
No reason to do it.
No reason.
So that's why, there's a range, and it's typically between 5 and 40 or thereabouts. Okay, it runs. Other than that, if it's higher than 40 or lower than 5, it'll shut it off.
And then also for here in the control system, obviously you can see your power coming in, and there's really nothing else wired off of that terminal strip. It's just power. So for this is your standard home screen. So to get through the different screens, so you hit, I don't like that back.
Yep.
So now unless you want to keep your 6 foot distance, I understand.
No, I don't care.
So there's your view, right? So how do you go to the different ones? So there's setup, there's boiler one, obviously you have one, monitor, and then toolbox. Okay, so those are the different screens. So your view screen's your standard home screen. You can see your inlet temp. Obviously it's not running. And if the boiler was firing, it would say firing.
There's a blue light that will come on.
Yeah, it's blue. And service required, it's red. Self-explanatory there. And then if you wanted to go ahead and go through this, you hit the item button, so you can see the delta T. Delta T is between supply and return, so it's sitting at 8 degrees, it's off. Right. And then we hit item again. You can see the target temperature right now is 185. We're going to adjust that back down. What do you want that at, Jack? Change that.
I would set it down to about 160.
Okay, we'll get next screen. 77 is what we're seeing on the supply temperature sensor right now. And
That's up there.
Where do we put that?
It's up there. See that junction box by that blue valve up there? It's up there.
Okay, so that's the supply temperature. This is outlet, so that's this one right here, reading on the outlet. Inlet, 163. And that's in the cabinet behind this. And then we're back to the delta T. So we'll go to the next menu and setup. Now Jack already set this up. EMS is for energy management system. Okay, and that's that 0 to 10 volts DC coming from the Techmar controls to tell it what the set point should be based on those outdoor air temperatures for that slab. So, I jumped. So there's setup. Mode 1 is where you're going to be.
Okay.
That's standard mode. That's where it's at. You don't need to fiddle with that. That's okay. And then target, we're going to set that down. What'd you say, Jack? 160?
Set it about 160. Make it 165. Go up a little bit. Yeah. There you go. Okay.
So
And then I have, wait, go. Let's talk target minimum. I have up a little higher. Go ahead. Go up. No. Take set 165. Now hit the item button again. Target minimum. We're going to lower that down. I'd make that maybe 100. Okay, that's good.
that sets the range for the voltage.
Okay.
So it'll go between those two. Purge, you're not.
We're not using that function, so don't worry about it.
We're not speaking Canadian, so we're in Fahrenheit. Monitor mode, you don't have Modbus connected. Do you guys do any monitoring in your buildings with any kind of
Energy management system.
like BACnet, Modbus? Okay. If you would ever do that, you can connect to this via Modbus or BACnet, if you would. And then address one, this is Modbus stuff. You can see it says
That's all Modbus communications.
So, and then we're back to the beginning target. So you can see there's really not a whole lot in there. And then boiler 1,
I have it turned off right now.
do you want it still off or do you want it on?
Well, he wasn't circulating water for a while, so he's circulating water now, so I would say...
I'm going to turn it on, and then disconnect switch to power it off is right here.
Okay.
Make sense?
You can do that.
And here's why I do that. This can be a bugger to troubleshoot. Because if you've turned it off here, unless you know that's there, you'll drive yourself nuts trying to get the boiler to fire, and you'll never get it to fire. I don't care what you do.
The upside of that is if you want to make sure that no way, no how it fires,
Do that.
if you go to that and disable it, it will not fire.
Gotcha.
So that can be a great
Either way.
safety. In other words, if you want to walk away from
It's
here...
almost like a lockout tagout.
Exactly. You can walk away from here and know that unless somebody finds that and changes it, it isn't going to fire.
But it's just you two guys.
Yeah.
So you got each other to blame.
Yeah.
So ignition, obviously. Net ball, it's coming on. So then we can see the limit temperature, what it's set at. You're not doing it. That's the volts coming in. So that's 10 volts DC. So that's going to go to that max set point. We had it at 165. Okay. Firing rate. That's the blower speed. And then you can see outlet max, we set that down to 20. So that 20 is fine. Factory default is on those 40, but we normally set them down to 20. That allows it to modulate down a little bit more quicker before the set point, so you get a little bit longer run time. So, operator, that is this.
Okay.
So that's if for some reason this board and that board lose communication, it goes and it reverts to whatever that is set to. It'll run without the display. So there's been times when I've just yanked, there's a blue cable here, a blue communication cable, and yank the blue cable when I'm troubleshooting with guys over the phone. So just pull the blue cable, turn that, and we get the boiler started.
Good.
It's called limp along is what it's called.
Differential, it's automatic, so there's no change there. I got it set to auto.
Is it set in auto?
That's your pump post-purge. So when the call for heat is satisfied, the boiler circulating pump will run for another 5 minutes to dissipate heat into the system and then shut off automatically. Turn it off again?
Yeah, just till we're done.
Hit the menu button.
Yeah.
There you go. Now here's the other thing. Go back to the monitor.
Well, we didn't get the whole way through this yet.
Well, you got it off now. You won't be able to see it
Yeah.
until you turn it on. You're going to have to use the up arrow.
Yeah.
There you go.
We'll have to do it quick. So percentage firing rate, blower speed, outlet max, operator, like we saw, the diff at 10. You sure that's not at auto?
It is in auto.
Based on your settings down
Correct.
there? Okay. Flame current, so that's the flame signal. Typically you're going to see 3 to 4.
Okay.
That's something to keep in mind because that's what that flame signal is reading back. If you're seeing like a 1 or a 2, change out the flame rod.
Okay.
And you guys do your own burner?
No.
Okay, so somebody like
Dark.
or somebody would come in, that's where they would use that information.
Yeah.
Or another service technician. So in other words, if you, let's say you called me or you called Raypak for support and they say, well, what's your flame signal? You can go
Yeah,
there
gotcha.
and it's telling you exactly what it is. You don't have to have a meter
Yeah.
to read it.
So then monitor, so then you can see that's hours. So if you just roll right down through that, you can see it's just, there's your cycles, there's your run time.
So basically, it's just
High,
looking at what
low.
your current conditions are right now.
That's all it is.
And it's going to change, but it's going to
Sure.
record,
Yep.
always record that information. The toolbox isn't something that you're really going to ever do. And that's going to be a service technician.
User test is what we use to go ahead and fire it up. So we can drive it to high fire, drive it to low fire.
Okay.
So that's where we would end up doing that. Max heat. Now, you can do that if you ever had to. You could, and that takes it to 100% firing rate. If you turn it on, it just, yep, that's what I want. So,
But it automatically turns off in 24 hours.
Okay.
Yes, nothing for you guys. Defaults, and then we're back to user test, and then we're back to view menu.
thing about, remember, view, you can't make any changes in the view menu. That's
Sure.
just your window into the boiler.
Yep.
You can see what is happening. No changes made there. Set up and adjust, and the boiler menu are really the only places where you can make changes. Okay? And I guess the other important thing is, where to shut things off. So
Yes.
there's your gas shut off. Okay? There's your power for your two pumps, one for the boiler, one for the system. And then
Do you recommend that we shut the ice melt off come spring?
it's
No
going
need?
to automatically shut itself off.
Okay.
So-
Because I know in our other system, they were turning it off every spring and turn it back on in the fall if they remembered. I thought, well, that seems silly.
You can if you want
You
to.
can if you want, but you don't have
I'd
to.
rather not have to worry about
Because the
that.
system's set up to.
Now, these have circuit breakers built into them, so they can trip. Okay?
Sure.
When it's running, the lights lit.
Okay.
And then the boiler power switch is underneath here.
That's the tricky one.
Okay.
It's right here. You can see it right there. It's underneath there. Okay.
But the one you'll remember
Right,
is the
so-
one over there on the 4x4 box. See it?
Yep.
Okay, right here.
Right there.
So that's power, that's gas. There's really no water to shut off because you actually have to pump glycol into it.
Glycol in.
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
And then anything else on
And
this?
then we change those once a year.
About once a year, yeah.
When you see, they will degrade over time.
Okay.
So when they degrade over time, then you just, typically what happens is you just get another two.
Right.
You put another two in. So that's all you do with those.
And,
So,
okay.
What you see in front of you is a condensate neutralizer. As that material degrades, neutralizing the acid out of the boiler and the chimney, then you will simply just replace the tube. This is something you should inspect annually every 6 months. Like, how do I have a hole in the cover? What happened? That's what happened.
we go from a bunch of little holes to a big
Big
hole.
hole.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to,
Yeah,
you told me that, so
Yep. There's a condensate trap underneath.
okay.
You really probably should never have to do anything with it, but it is there. Right. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. This is notes. So have a great day, and thanks for spending a little bit of time with Aaron Weaver, your boiler guy with Raypak, bringing you the best boiler room experience.